Hello and welcome everyone to this very special edition of Live SEO Audit by one and only Don Anderson. So today we have this very special expert with us, Don Anderson, who is very known SEO personality on this planet, and professionally she's managing director of Movie Digital Marketing Agency, and she's one of the very famous international SEO consultant. And along with that, she's also lecturer at the Manchester Metropolitan University. And now I think Dawn can introduce herself better than me, because if I spend time on introduction, then I would take more than half an hour easily, and we don't have that much time. So Dawn, could you please introduce yourself?
Thanks, Nitin. Really pleased to be here. Thank you for asking me and inviting me to share with your audience. As Nitin mentioned, I'm Dawn Anderson, and I've been in SEO for quite a while. I'm really interested in a lot of the aspects of technical SEO, crawling, crawl efficiency, and the semantics and all the, I really spend a lot of time studying things like information retrieval. It's such a fascinating topic. And I lecture at the university as well on digital marketing overall, lecturing undergrads, graduates, and how search fits in with that across all the channels. And I also lecture the international fashion promotion students on marketing analytics. So that's me. And as I say, I'm really pleased to be here. So thanks, Nitin.
Thank you so much, Don, for joining us today. Well, before we start, I just want to give a disclaimer here that you are one of my favorite SEOs, and I'm a bit nervous today because I'm sharing this e-stage with you. So first, I'm really thankful to Semrush for this opportunity, but I'm a bit nervous as well. So please go with me for initial 5-10 minutes. I think then I'll be okay.
Well, you're also one of my favorite SEOs, and I love your work and whatnot.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. That's a big compliment. That's a good way to start here, I would say. All right. So, Don, before we move ahead with the actual stuff that everyone is waiting for, so I would love to hear your thoughts on SEO these days. I mean, what's your favorite SEO aspect that you think one should keep an eye on in 2018?
Okay. So, I did the post about voice search the other day, and that, for me, one of the biggest areas now that people should massively be focusing on is this whole notion of relatedness. Yeah. So because we know, for instance, that voice search is, and just generally search is trying to understand more around the meanings of things rather than just flat text. And we know that there's a huge amount of content out there. A lot of it has no structure, in just normal web pages. Some of it is not, it doesn't even have headings, for instance. Very difficult for search engines to get any sort of semantic meaning from that. So actually, the notion of relatedness, actually mapping concepts together, topical modeling is massively important for voice, for just general search. So I think really we should all be concentrating on trying to build these topical models and just make sure everything is smooth, easy to crawl, well structured, and make like a library, make your website like a well organized library. So that for me is the important thing.
Cool, thank you so much. I read the article. Yeah, I read the article you wrote. It was amazing. It's like gold. So I would highly recommend everyone who's looking for voice search, or who has voice search in their to-do list for this year, or if they don't have it but they have some bandwidth to work on some interesting project, then I would definitely highly recommend you to take a look at that article and probably work on it this year. All right, so now moving ahead with the actual stuff that everyone is looking for. So today in this episode, we'll be talking about 3 websites. One is quotemycom.com, and then we have gametalk.com, and we have tradeindia.com. So these are the 3 websites that Don will be talking about. And in total, we have approximately 30 minutes to talk about these websites. So it would be 10 minutes approximately for each and every website. And if you have questions, like you're always asking in YouTube live chat, so feel free to ask your questions here, and Dawn is more than happy to answer your questions once she's done with talking about these websites. So now, Dawn, stage is all yours.
Okay, thank you. So as Nitin's mentioned, I've not got a huge amount of time, so it's going to be like really, really quite top level, very top level for these. I did find a few things that actually I felt could be areas of relative quick wins. And obviously, with any kind of site, the bigger the site, the older the site, the more problems tend to creep in. I always think it's a bit like, you have an apartment block and you fix the roof and then a leak starts in the basement on bigger sites. Maintaining what you've got, trying to make good stuff as it comes through, new stuff, but also you have all this sort of legacy as well. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to go through each one and I'm going to highlight a few areas for each, and hopefully there'll be some useful takeaways. So hopefully Nitin will be able to tell me whether you can see my screen. One sec.
Not yet. Yeah, now I can see myself.
You can see yourself. Okay, right. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to move away from you. I'm going to just have a look. So I ran the 3 sites for a start through a really useful tool called GT Metrics, which I really love. And so just to have a look at things like speed, for instance. I know that this is, again, as I said, very, very top level. But speed is increasingly important, as we know, particularly on mobile, because people will abandon much more quickly. And we know that overall mobile usage is huge, just getting bigger and bigger. So this one, Trade India, didn't have a bad score, but there's just still a few little areas where you can make quite a big difference to things like speed. So, for instance, there's quite a lot of images here, that could just very, very easily, for a great win, that could probably take you from a B up into an A, just compress some of these images, and things like, I think Tiny PNG is a good little tool that you can compress with, So just throw them into something like this and then re-upload them. Well, images are always a good win, and a lot of people kind of just let me find it again now. I've lost it. No, that one. Ta-da. Yeah, so images are like a really, really easy and quite quick win. So that's well worth doing. For backgrounds, some of them as well, you could combine into CSS sprites. So in actual fact, it just kind of pulls in little bits, snippets from the location on one image, as such. So have a look at, explore CSS sprites. A little bit more complicated than just literally like compressing the images, but it's certainly worth the effort. And that, I think, would sort of tip you up towards an A with these. Minimize redirects. Let's have a look at these. Now, often, right, so a lot of these you can't do anything with, It always comes up and it really kind of, it doesn't annoy me, but I just think there's nothing you can do about redirecting Google's stuff, You're not going to, fix their redirect chains for them, but obviously things like DoubleClick and Google Ads, that will end up with redirections from there anyway. Browser caching. This one's a good one. So you can add to htaccess, if you like, expires afters and browser caching. So you can say, cache after X period, or for instance, on JavaScript, CSS files and pictures, you can add a period after which the browser needs to download another version, but you can set that for quite a long time. So you could say for, a month or even a year for images, because typically images don't change very often. So that's always a good one as well to add. As I say, on there it says add expires headers, So this one, it's a bit more complicated, and that one you can look at things like 3 or 4 headers on certain types of files. So effectively you're saying don't download until this period, or it expires after X date, and then download it. That's a big one, but it's a little bit more complicated. It's worth doing a bit of exploration with your developers, yeah. So user content delivery network, the likes of Cloudflare, etc., particularly for dynamic sites, really useful. I think Cloudflare, well, I know Cloudflare has a free version as well. So that's always worth having a look at as well. But overall, apart from on the YSlow score, it was not horrific. And if you get if you set up an actual account with GC Metrics, even a free one, you can have the video option, for instance. So you can actually see the timings of when the first contentful paint comes in, etc. You can debug and fix all the little things that are taking the time, because you'll start to see which ones are blocking things, if you like. So it should do this in a second. So GC Metrics, I definitely recommend. Yeah, you start to see what's coming through, what's loading, yeah, etc. Yeah, just settings and so forth. Great for business cases. You can take a copy of the video and actually add that to a report by downloading it here, for instance. So that was on that one. Let me quickly have a look at some of the other things that I found on Semrush. Yeah. So good news is it looks like you are on the ascendancy, which is good. And actually that seemed to coincide with the Maccabees update that Barry Schwartz named, saying that actually, it was targeting spammy links and various other things. So it does look like you've had a little bit of an uplift there that does coincide with that recent shift. We can see, for instance, that you've got quite a lot of branded traffic, but obviously that's probably to do a little bit with the fact that your name has got partly a generic word around what you do as such. So I wouldn't take that completely as a given. So what else did I spot in here? There were some issues. Let me just find it. Hold on a sec. One sec. I had it in my projects. One sec. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, as I say, a few of them were coming up with slow load speed, yeah. Bear in mind that all site speed checkers generally will come up with different measurements, different results, etc., based on where they're checking from, etc., which browser. Best to use page speed insights where possible. Yeah. So I looked on page speed insights as well. On mobile, it was all good. This is obviously first contentful paint and obviously the full DOM loading. On desktop, it wasn't as good, but that's because you have a different version of content and different layout for mobile versus desktop. So it's, again, dig in, have a look what some of the issues are. Again, same thing. I think your biggest win is going to be just literally compressing a lot of these images overall. Yeah. So what else did I find? Okay, so this was one. So you had like a lot of internally no followed links. Yeah. So I know this has been like quite a popular thing to do. So for instance, a lot of people tend to sort of no follow site wides on things like user agreement or contact us or website terms, etc. There's kind of no sense in doing that, because actually everything passes some internal page rank. And also, I see a lot of people that sort of no index contact us pages. They don't want to be contacted, but it doesn't, for me, that doesn't give a great signal. Have anything such as like sentiment analysis does make me sort of think that maybe it's not a good sign. So, and I see you're also using kind of some subdomains as well. So I'd be digging into some of these no-follow attributes as well. It looks maybe like you've had some bloats that you've been trying to do a bit of controlling. Yeah, so a lot of these subdomains, for instance. So I've been kind of giving those a bit of a review and looking at what's happening there. I think there was as well something. Oh yeah, that was it. Okay, so a lot of the H1s as well. You had pages that don't have H1 headings. Now we know, for instance, that the H1 is important because it basically adds structure, and it basically says this is the big sum up of what this page is about. Overall, differentiates it from a lot of the stuff. So actually, I'd be going through those and having a look and adding them where you can do. Well, just add them. And bear in mind, on this, I only did a sample crawl of 5,000 pages. Yeah. I think here as well, I looked at some of the what you were blocking on robots. Some of it seemed kind of like potential stuff that might be worth reviewing. Like the contact us there, as I say, you kind of got it so you don't want that even crawled. So even if you do make that decision and review it and decide, well, we're not going to index it, which I wouldn't recommend personally. But if you decide I would certainly let it be crawled because it will have some sort of topical relevance. It will have some internal page rank, particularly if it's linked from a site-wide level as well. So what else did I find? Hold on. What time are we at? How long have we got on this one left, Nitin?
I think we are only done 10 minutes for it. In fact, 11.
Okay. Oh, wait. Oh, God. Okay. There's loads. I mean, you could just go on and on, really. There's quite a lot of stuff. But for me, some of those was sort of a little bit the clangers, really. Yeah. There's loads of stuff that you could do on any site, obviously. But just run it through the tools, and a lot of them will just come out with things like review the robots, etc. Yeah. So let me just have a quick look on the next one as well. So let's have a look. Again, as I said, speed is like the big deal for me. Yeah. So this one, what my card? Okay. So again, same thing. Images, they're the easiest big win that you can possibly get. Again, same thing. Combine them, you'll move from a B up to an A. In many instances. So let's look at this one. Okay, so this one, I would look at these because you're getting kind of some 410s and 404s. So check those images and either replace them with ones that actually do return something, or take them out completely. Yeah. So, but as I say, images, and again, same thing, CSS sprites, well worth doing. Yeah. Again, same thing, you can have a look in the video. Again, this one loads quicker than an average site. The size of it is, smaller than your average, and it was below average in terms of the number of requests it makes as well. But again, same thing. Look at something like Cloudflare to serve over. And bear in mind as well, if I'm not mistaken, just recently, PageSpeed Insights has updated. So actually, it returned results based on real-time data as such. So it's kind of more accurate. And I remember that there was a conversation went on around the different times that come out of PageSpeed. Some of the tools, and there's a discussion between GT Metrics and I think it was Gary Esch from Google. There's reasons for it. So, but in actual fact, PageSpeed Insights from Google is the one really you should be looking to use as your gold standard as such. And it's worth knowing as well that actually, even if you do make changes with a content delivery network, even though it's a faster experience for your users, and I would recommend it, those changes that you implement through a content delivery network won't be reflected in page speed insights, Google's page speed insights. But again, same thing. It's a good experience to move things onto a CDN as such. Yeah. So this one's a good one. So again, look at your CSS, minify. There's like minification tools. I think it's just literally minify CSS or something like that you can literally just zip it all up, or just not zip it up, but minify it. But actually, on that point, depending on your server configuration, there is literally just a button that you can press. For instance, if you're on an Apache server, that just says optimize website, compress everything. Yeah, it's just a one button configuration, but that can speed things up quite a lot as well. So let's just have a quick look at the site itself. Let me just find that project. One sec. Let me just find this quote I can. Sorry, again, I'm just going to try. I'm trying to get through as much as I possibly can, because this one came back with a few things as well. Quite a lot of things, actually. Yeah. Okay. This one was quite problematic from a duplicate content perspective. Now, obviously, we know that there's many different types of duplicate content. Some of the duplicate content is just such a sweeping statement that everybody, including the tools, and no disrespect to them, it's anything that has over a certain parameter or a threshold of content the same will be flagged as duplicate content. I would recommend that you don't just take that as given. That what you do is you go through these pages that are actually saying that they're duplicates and try to understand the differences. So, for instance, we see here this balloon decoration, Gagayan RD City. You'll see a lot of duplicates will come up often in location-based pages, yeah, because they're dynamically populated. Sometimes it's just the title or the location that's the difference. What you need to do is compare the two. We're using something like this, like diff checker, yeah. And this is a really good. Go into the page itself, yeah. Let me find it again. Go into this page, for instance, yeah. And take the content, yeah. Yeah, so you see actually the problem here is that there's not a lot of added value with a lot of this. It's just these are the only differences. When you compare it with this next one, go back. This page. Yeah. Okay. So you can see this is just like, this is a little bit stitched as such. All you're doing is just dynamically adding little bits of words here and there. Yeah. So this is a really common practice. I'm not saying that this is a bad thing as such, but there's definitely a lot more that you could probably do to be making this more unique. Or I know you've got some unique parts. You need to probably spend more time reducing the bits that are common a little bit more and increasing the uniqueness of these, yeah. But make sure it focuses, on what you're trying to sort of rank that for. So actually, search engines realize, well, actually, these pages are, they're obviously both relevant to Gagayan, yeah. But I mean, that one's a funny one because I'm not quite sure that you wouldn't be better off just actually combining this into this page, yeah. So that actually it strengthens up this one rather than diluting between these. Because if the only difference is that, I don't know, it depends on what content you've got. If you've got enough good content that relates to this area only for this topic, then fair enough. But you need to concentrate on that because tools are flagging it. And it's likely actually that, this recent update, for instance, that was that was picked up in late December really look to sort of target those sort of almost doorway type pages. Not saying it's necessarily intentional, you've not done it to do anything bad. It's just a lot of those pages maybe don't add anything additional when you compare the phase one, yeah, with, you know, RD City, etc. Yeah. So, okay, again, explore it in more detail. Maybe look to do some bulking up or add some additional value. Reduce some of the common boilerplate type areas that are sort of being dynamically generated at a template level. Yeah. So I think that was kind of quite a big issue on that one. Yeah, as such. Yeah. But again, don't just blindly chop everything, whatever you do. Just go through them individually and manually. Take the content, view source on it. Yeah. Sorry, let me just going back to it now. Let me find it again. View source, take it, and sort of whack it into here, and then do the other one as well. Yeah, and then compare, and you'll start to see what the differences are. If the difference is something valuable and it meets additional queries, then work on improving that. Yeah. But if it's obviously just stuff that actually meets the same queries, but, you know, not substantively more, then I would be looking maybe to do a little bit of pruning and chopping back, yeah, and condensing things together, yeah. So I think that was the big issue on that one that I spotted. Again, let me just look on the robots txt of that one. Find it. I had it here. Also, one other thing that I thought about this one as well is that on some parts of it, it kind of looked a little bit jumble-sale-y, like you were just trying to throw everything in, you know, and this looked a little bit like it was just built for SEO. It's right down at the bottom. This, again, these don't link anywhere, and they just looked a little bit like it was, again, all a little bit like built for SEO, because this is obviously trying to like build site-wide relevance to these areas. Yeah, you'd be better off sort of maybe having these linked through and working on building out hubs that are around the whole like experiences in these cities. Build something really powerful around these neighborhoods as such. Yeah. And again, same thing, main content. I'd probably have had like this up here. So main content, you know, what we do, what is the USP, yeah, rather than having people having to like scroll down on desktop, yeah, and maybe just on desktop, on mobile, have just like a little bit more here, so it actually gives that added value, yeah, above the fold, yeah, above the scroll as such. But there was something else as well. Hold on, let me find it. Oh, that was it. Okay, so when I looked at this, it kind of implied to me that you realise that there are some issues with like some weaker content. Yeah. One other thing as well, if that were me, I would be probably not putting this into your robots. I'd probably be putting that into something like X robots, HD access, just from a security perspective, really. But I kind of got the impression that some of these were like places that you'd realise that there was a few issues, and in actual fact, you decided that you just were going to like exclude them from crawling for now, yeah, maybe thin stuff. So actually, that looks like it's a redirect. So you probably want to like take that out of there. Just like do like a web conf header check on this. See if we can take that. One sec, sorry. Just double check. I mean, you can use something like Lighthouse and stuff as well, which is a great tool to sort of just check headers. this is not always that. See here, look, you've got redirections in the actual robots.txt. Now I know Google's not going to crawl it, but if it's redirecting anyway, you just could do it. You just need to set these out, really, because they're of no value as such. Yeah, so better maybe to have the redirection followed. Yeah, Google can't find the redirection if it can't crawl it as such. So actually, there's potentially stuff that you're missing out on passing there to this services. Yeah, bear in mind as well, if you're going to redirect, you probably need to make sure that the service, what you're redirecting from, which was oh, what was it? I'm sorry, I'm a bit all over the place with tabs here. With these, if you haven't got dietitians in Gurgaon in the redirected, in the services page, that will be treated anyway like a soft 404, because actually you're redirecting people based on the likelihood that they're searching on queries like dietitians in Gurgaon, etc., so forth. Yeah. So, what time are we on, Nitin?
Well, we are actually left with 5 minutes only, but you can take maybe 7-8 minutes to explain
right.
the
So I'm
last
going to be
one.
quick. Sorry. So there's a few other things. Again, same thing. Run it through the tools. Have a look. There's quite a lot of other areas as well, but this one was the big one, and that one as well. Same thing. You've got like this no follow as well. So review that. You really want Googlebot to sort of go into, particularly on things like redirections. If it can't see the redirection, then it can't follow the redirection, etc. So what was the other side now? So this one. So GameTop, yeah. So I had a look on that one as well. Let me find it. GameTop. Here we go. So this one, okay. So this site looked like it had a few issues going on, and they are things that sort of tend to work a little bit with. I mean, a little bit of recovery, but it seems to be like a lot of quality stuff that's hitting it as it goes along. Yeah, every redirection, it seems to every big update seems to sort of be like getting battered a little bit. Yeah. So when we look at a few of the areas, for instance, let's have a quick look. Come back to. So if I remember right, this didn't actually have like robots at all, for instance. So it's worth looking at that, adding one to start with. I would be looking at some of this, yeah, because it kind of seems almost like it's a little bit over optimized in some parts for games, yeah, as such. I know that these are often still popular, but I don't know. I mean, some of it looked to be like it's kind of really just there's no substantive like commentary, or literally it's just like dynamically populated. I know a lot of game sites like this, but actually those that seem to do really well add some really useful, insightful commentary. A lot of this is just like pulling in just loads and loads of like just different dynamic stuff, yeah. And there's quite a lot of potential for like overlap of duplication, so not actually adding a huge amount of value here. So I mean, obviously it's mostly at the categories and stuff like that, yeah. So let's have a quick look at one of these. So these are all right, but be careful that actually you've not got a lot of crossover with other sites, for instance, that you're reviewing. Again, look at this. Look at this. There's actually just taking out some of the common areas can actually start to increase the uniqueness of these bits. Build out these really content richful parts, if you like, yeah, and look at some of these areas that are probably duplicated in quite a lot of areas, yeah. So just by that, you could maybe start to see some good traction starting to kick in. So also, I think there was some other issues there as well, quite big issues if I remember rightly. Let me find it. The game site. Hold on a sec. Game top. Have a quick look. Let's have a quick look. So I think, yeah, so yours is really more like a quality thing that you need to just be working on to try and get the result. As I say, I only crawl 1,000 of these pages, yeah. So the duplication was flagged up. But for me, there is a lot of duplicate content on this that maybe sometimes tools don't pick up on. And what the reason for that is that a lot of your stuff is dynamically, randomly generated, yeah. So in actual fact, every time a tool or Google comes in, maybe it's just reloading it all in a different order, yeah. So in actual fact, I've seen a lot of that. I've had sites that have done that, but what happens is over time, in my experience, Google starts to pick up these patterns. And if anybody knows about the dustbuster like studies from years ago, the dustbuster crawling algorithms, that really are kind of there's a lot of research into building pictures and patterns based around dynamic content. Over time, they start to build up a picture of the bits that you're stitching together. So this is almost a little bit of stitching for me. Again, same thing. I'm sure that your intention is not to like do anything negative at all, but it's just that, and you're hopefully trying to make a better experience for your users. But this kind of content doesn't, for me, seem to bode very well. Yeah, overall, you need to sort of build out those rich pages, build out a blog, link across. Yeah, use internal links to build relatedness between your blog and your product pages, and engage your audience. You know, interview gamers, ask for gamers' opinions, get people sort of sharing your content, etc. Maybe get good guest writers that will then become our ambassadors to your blog, etc. There's loads of stuff that you could potentially do with your site, and I would certainly, just because it's been hit by quite a lot of quality things, I would certainly not throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say in the UK, one of the sayings. I would be looking to sort of be just thinking, right, what can we do to really like make this a great site, yeah, and just review it and take a look at it. Maybe ask a customer panel, maybe ask your visitors, what can we do to improve this site? There's some free survey software that you can add, and maybe ask your network through social as well. There's certainly lots and lots of areas. Again, let me just have a look at the speed if we've got the time. Yeah, but yours, I think, for me was like more of a quality thing. So yeah, again, a lot of that is like you can't minimize those sprites. Same old, same old. Okay, so again, and again, one other thing I would be looking to do is, as soon as you possibly can, I'll be looking to put this onto HTTPS. There's quite a lot of studies that now show that actually the top ranking sites overall tend to be HTTPS. I think Pete Myers keeps an eye on that based on you know, how many top ranking websites and what percentage they are on HTTPS. So I would be doing that as a big priority, getting it migrated over to HTTPS. Yeah. So let's have a quick look. What else? As I said, the browser caching. I can see that you're bringing in your images from and serving them from somewhere else, but I would be adding, if you can, certainly a lot of browser expires times or longer expiry times for things like CSS, JavaScript, and certainly images. Yeah. Again, same thing. Have a look at these. Yeah, there's nothing you can do about that one. Yeah. Add expires after headers. Yeah, that's a big one. You should definitely be looking to do that one. And you've got a lot of external JavaScripts, but actually, let's have a quick look, because maybe they aren't. Yeah, let's have a quick look. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong site. Apologies there.
Hey, Don.
Yeah, so we've run out of time.
Your time,
Sorry.
yeah. So
Sorry. Okay, but anyway,
yeah.
review your external JavaScripts and maybe try and combine them into as few as you can. But being careful that actually with JavaScript, have to make sure everything still runs in the exact same order as it did before. Anyway, right. Sorry, got carried away. There's so much you could do. So I'm going to stop sharing now. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right. Thank you so much, Don, for sharing that. So I was trying to concentrate on what you were saying. That was amazing stuff. And I know when you're looking at the website, so you can just keep talking and talking and talking about stuff because you know a lot, and you feel like sharing like the maximum stuff you can. So that's the thing here. And there are like a lot of things that these websites can do. So that's why, I mean, you took a bit more time than expected. But I think that's absolutely fair because we actually kept 5 minutes like provision time for this because we know, I mean, generally when an expert is talking about something, so we generally, take more time. All right.
Yeah, no worries. All right, you could just go on and on, couldn't you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that was amazing. Thank you so much, Don, for sharing all that. And I think all these three websites or their owners or their webmaster, they must be super happy hearing all these things. And they actually, I think, probably got like next 6 months agenda already from you. So let's see how it goes.
There's loads of potential with all of those sites, and there's loads of things that they can do to make them amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and there are a lot of low-hanging fruits that they can probably target to achieve within this month and see them back. I think that would be the real wins for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So now, so our very active visitors, they're like always asking questions, amazing questions. So now I would like to, pose those questions to you because you are the expert here with us, and we want to hear your views on that. Start with the first question, which is from Nagendra V, who's asking, how do we deal with internal content duplication?
Okay. So as I said with the likes of game top, I think it was there.
Yeah, that's right.
I think the key is to make sure that actually you think about the queries that your site or that individual page is trying to target. Yeah. Because I think a lot of the issues that I see on sites where duplication occurs, they have a lot of pages targeting the same queries, and actually I think the key is to try and separate out those things, and try to add something more unique that's around a specific topic, a specific don't start doing silly things like trying to target every single keyword that you possibly can with a unique one page. Group things together. Think about stemmings. So think about query expansion. So it might be, I don't know, running. Running might also include things like run, runners, etc. Search engines kind of understand that these things are often one and the same. That's not completely true, but you don't need to start to say, right, we're going to do a page about the word run. We're going to do a page about the word running. And I've seen that before, and people just go absolutely nuts. You could combine a lot of stuff and make something amazing. Build topical hubs and use internal linking and things like XML sitemaps to differentiate and use canonicalization, but be sure that you know what you're doing with canonicalization, because actually once you start and you do it wrong, you can start a series of, it's only a hint, and it takes a lot of hints to turn it in one direction, and then you do it wrong. If you've done it wrong, you have to then start undoing hints, which can take a long time. It's a bit like dripping into a bath. It takes a long time to fill up, and then you pull the plug out and try and get it to go in a different, so just make sure you know what you're doing with canonicalization.
Sounds good. Well, we have another question that's from Raj Rana, which is very much related to the question that I just asked. So the question is there a way to avoid duplicate content on product variations? So this is like one of very hot questions in the SEO industry all the time, especially for e-commerce SEO. So the question
you're talking
is
about attributes like colors. Colors is a big one. So attributes. So what I would do is I would definitely look to have one page and have colours, unless there's enough search volume to justify colour as, like, for instance, you'd have dresses with red dresses, black dresses, blue dresses. You would have that as an individual page, but on the product. So you say you've got black dress or bohemian style dress, long sleeve, X product, and you have 3 colours: black, gold, silver. Yeah, I would definitely at that level of granularity be having the colours in the actual options within the page, and I wouldn't be building them out as individual pages. Now, if it was James Bond cars and there was that famous grey one, so it depends, on apple red, that's going to be like enough search volume to justify the effort. What difference can you say between that silver dress and that black dress and that gold dress? Probably not enough to justify an individual page. So link it to queries, think about it, and make something bigger in an individual page. Same with sizes, unless it's like, you've just got to think about, is there enough people searching to justify the effort? Chances are one's going to get picked if you're not careful, and the others will be excluded. So, that's all. And make sure that it's just, that's my point. That's my thought.
No, I think that's spot on, and there can't be any better reply to this question than this. And so now, Don, you answered already about product variations, especially in case of colors. But let's say we have iPhone, where we have different colors and different storage. So there are a lot of things that people search. So how do you recommend handling these kind of cases where we have different, not just color, but many other attributes which are popular? For example, people search for iPhone X 256 gigs, right? So how do you...
when there's enough popularity, for me, it justifies a page, So, build it out. Do things like add additional value over what others are doing. So, for instance, on that product page, you could add, obviously, reviews, user-generated content. So people ask questions about it. The questions is a good thing. Anything we know that, for instance, last year we asked how in the video that Google released about the year in search. We asked how more often than anything else. So questions are amazing. So if you can have like a question and answer section in that product content, it adds something rich and meaningful, and it builds out some natural language as well. It's natural language because it's not some SEOer sitting there writing as much spammy, like optimized content as they can do. It's actually involving an audience, and it just looks natural. So I'll be building those sorts of pages out, and I would be linking across from the blog, talking about them in review pages and linking across, etc.
All right, thank you so much. And moving to the next question, which is from Priya. And the question is, do you really recommend to use SEO plugins like Yoast for websites? If yes, then what is the role of focus keywords here?
I like Yoast, to be honest. I like it. I think it's come on a long way, and I think that I don't think it's the definitive, and I don't think they claim to be the definitive for any mass. If you've got a massive enterprise website, it's probably not going to be the solution that you need. But what it does do is it takes a lot of the initial heavy lifting out of getting off the blocks with a page. I use the premium version on all of the sites that I work on that have any kind of WordPress. I always put the plugin on because it just is good for a few pointers, really. I wouldn't take the minimum or maximum word count as a given that's exactly what you need. The focus keyword, I think, for me, it helps you just to keep a little bit on course. I wouldn't sort of have one focus keyword for a page. I'd probably try and build it out into these groups semantically anyway. But I think the key is, as we go on in SEO, we start to be less, we don't take everything as black and white. We start to be a bit more like critical of the things that we use, and we realize that no tool is perfect. Every one of them will have pros and cons, but yes, I like it, and I would recommend the premium version because there's a lot of extra things in there.
Well, definitely, I agree with you. I mean, these tools, especially Yoast, so they're improving a lot, and it's amazing. And so when you're using Yoast, I think you should check each and every option they have. So they have it's a very powerful tool. But even I would recommend the point that you recommended here, that don't just trust on Yoast. For example, if you're talking about log analysis, probably there are many other tools which can do better than Yoast. So there are a lot of things that you can do. Maybe I mean using other tools, or maybe just using command lines if you are techie. But don't trust Yoast for everything. But Yoast is amazing, so highly recommend it.
Exactly. Don't trust any tool for everything, because no tool is perfect.
Of course.
You have to have like a proper toolbox and keep building it out.
Yeah, definitely. All right, moving to the next question, which is from Avinash Bitkari. And the question is, I checked many websites that aren't using long tail keywords in blog, but LSI keywords are used multiple times, even more than the primary keyword. And these blogs are ranking quite high. So is that a ranking method?
So I think actually you don't really want the likes of Bill Slawski hearing you mention the words LSI with reference to Google.
Yeah.
Google doesn't and has never used LSI at all. Yeah, in its search engine. Yeah. So actually, I think there's a lot of confusion around that. I think the great thing, I think the most important thing around things like blogs and so forth is the notion of relatedness. Yeah, semantic relatedness. Go and look that up instead of focusing on LSI. Yeah, there's a lot of confusion around it. Bill always points out a really, really interesting article. Follow Bill Slawski on Twitter. Would be my advice. See what he has to say about LSI, and work on, as I say, connecting blogs to product pages based on the relatedness of that. Yeah, relatedness is the big thing. Yeah. So actually be thinking about that, topical modeling, etc., rather than focusing on the LSI side of things. Yeah. It's a term that's being bandied around quite a lot, really, at the moment. And I think there needs to be more understanding of what it is and what it doesn't do, yeah, and what it's not. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much for answering that. And moving to the next question, which is from the Brispati Infotech Private Limited. The question is, how can we manage category, tags, and paginations duplication?
Okay. So again, for me, it all depends on what you've got in the categories, tags, and the pagination. Yeah. I'm a fan of actually reducing pagination and flattening a website's architecture. Yeah. So as long as it doesn't affect things like page load, I will try and more or less eliminate pagination if I can do. Yeah. Because I like to have it so that from a crawl perspective, everything is there, flat, and you effectively are making like each paginated page a very content-rich page in itself, as such, to pass a lot of relevance through. Don't confuse canonicalization and rel equals next, rel equals prev. That's a very, very common mistake that SEOs make. So, for instance, if you're going to use canonicalization, whatever you do, do not canonicalize to the first page in a paginated series. That's a big common mistake, and Google have a post on that. If you're going to canonicalize pagination, canonicalize to the view all only. Yeah. Realize, as I say, that rel equals next and rel equals prev, that if you're going to use pagination, you should use anyway. That basically connects a relationship. It doesn't replace canonicalization, and you should canonicalize to self-reference page 2, page 3, whatever, unless you're going to do the view all. With tags, be careful. I often see people go a bit nuts with these, and that's the nature of folksonomy, which is free tagging, which is like the term for it. If you end up with some copywriters, they just tend to like tag with every word that pops into their head. You're like Nitin, tag Manchanda, tag the tag, etc. SEO, fair enough. Just be careful with it, yeah. And if a tag doesn't have enough relevant content within it, I would just either not use it, or I would just block it, yeah. just review them. Make sure that they're meaningful to your content. They're not duplicating your categories, and they add some additional value. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. So now we are left with 5 more minutes. So I'll take 2 more questions. So the second last question is from Little Sunny Kitchen. The question is, all internal links must be follow links, right?
I tend to follow all of the internal links. I'll tell you for why. Because there's always going to be some sort of relevance, that's in there. The only reason I won't follow them is if the pages are very weak, very thin. I'm a bit ashamed of them, or a client's a bit ashamed of them. We just want to like have them so that actually, but actually then you'd probably be better off using the no index rather than no index follow. Bear in mind though, interesting question came up on this. Google's John Mueller was saying only last week and the week before, a lot of SEOs confuse no index follow. Don't realize that actually over time, Google will treat that like a no index, no follow. Yeah. But actually, because it's not being used for search, everything will just be treated as irrelevant in a followed page, even though if it's not in the index. So for me, I tend to say follow everything. Yeah. And like kind of to some extent let Google decide, but it depends on it's that famous SEO saying, it depends. It depends. I certainly wouldn't be following things like contact us pages, because I think contact us pages actually add quite a lot of value, particularly if you've got a bricks and mortar, for things like Google My Business and that kind of stuff, location. Yeah.
So thanks so much. Well, the last question is from Log Keepy, and the question is, read somewhere that title acts like H1 tag for an article. Do we still need to have another H1 tag in post? That's interesting.
An actual what? Action.
Yeah. So the question is, so this person read somewhere that title of an article acts as H1 tag. So in this case, do we need another H1 tag?
Yeah. Well, it depends. It depends on your setup, because WordPress.
That's your favorite term, right? It depends.
Yeah. The thing is, it depends. Depends. No. Well, no, it depends on your setup. Some of the projects I work on, it depends on how the developers have configured the site. I often try to have a different H1 to the title, because sometimes page titles you'll optimize more than you would a H1, which hopefully will read quite naturally and be useful as well for humans, So I'll tend to sort of, but as I say, I have WordPress often, it will be the H1, but it depends on your configuration, So you don't need 2 H1s. HTML5 will often give you several, Carousel sliders tend to give you several. Be careful on that, because you'll end up like maybe diluting what the page is about. So it depends, But I tend to like to craft each one differently.
All right. Thank you so much, John. That was amazing. And thank you so much for sharing a lot of yarn with all of us and answering all these questions in very polite and descriptive manner. Really appreciate that. And now that we are left with a couple of more minutes, so I would like to know what's your preferred communication channel, because there are a lot of questions which are unanswered. So probably people, if they still have the questions and their questions are unanswered, I would request them to catch you or me on LinkedIn or Twitter. So I think you're active everywhere, right, in social?
I tend to spend quite a bit of time on Twitter. But also, if this does go, I don't know whether there is a section on the blog post that you put out with this where people can ask further questions, and I can perhaps maybe answer some there. I don't know whether if there's more questions. It depends. So
exactly.
I will do my best.
I think on the website we don't have a dynamic section where people can keep adding questions. So I would request them to catch you or me on Twitter preferably. I think that's a perfect communication channel. And then I think we're more than happy with the questions.
Yeah, I'll do
And
my best.
now before,
I don't know
oh yeah,
everything, obviously. Who knows everything?
all right. So now before we say goodbye to everyone, I would like to hear about your key takeaway for the day. So what do you think you want to
uh,
focus on?
Oh, every website has so many things that you could be fixing. I mean, SEO is getting, for me, it's never getting easier. We learn more, so it seems to be relatively easier for us as we go on. But there's always change, which is always exciting. And actually now there's so many things that you have to, I mean, even those 3 sites there, so many things that you could fix. And there's no shame in having a site actually that needs fixing. All sites end up with issues over time. Yeah. So just keep making your sites better. Yeah. Think about your
Well, thank you
users as
so
well.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Don, for everything. And thank you
Yeah.
so much, everyone, for joining us. I hope you had a wonderful time. So enjoy, and thank you so much once again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye, everyone. Bye.